My name is Matt, and this course has grown out of my personal experiences and story, and really the stories and experiences of so many others, including you and your story. Mine is in some ways unique to me, and in other ways, it's very similar to the experience of millions of other caregivers. There are so many. In fact, from data published in 2020, 1 in 5 Americans is a caregiver. That's 53 million caregivers just in the United States. You'll hear me share a lot of what I've experienced, but I'm going to also draw upon the experiences of others who've lived through a variety of different caregiving scenarios and how we've all navigated the journey to caregiver health, wellness, and resilience, the challenges we faced, and what we can learn from each other. It might be my voice you hear as the narrator and host, but I represent so many others, those who work and partner with Community for Caregivers, and all those others we know and have known and served and learned from across the years. Some background on me personally. I grew up with my grandparents in a small Idaho town. I lost my mom just after childbirth, so I never knew her. And my dad went in a different direction than I did. I called my grandma and my grandpa mom and dad because they were, and they were amazing. I really became a caregiver in my teens. In Idaho at the time, 14-year-olds got their driver's license, and my grandma, my mom, had deteriorating eyesight such that I began to chauffeur her around. It was a pretty great sight, the young teenage chauffeur driving around the grandma in her 70s. In my 20s and 30s, I was giving care to them while they were in their 80s and 90s, and I just learned how incredibly important, complex, overwhelming, but rewarding caregiving is. On average, caregivers of adults provide care for 4.5 years, with 29% of caregivers providing care for 5 years or longer. My dad, my grandpa, passed away when I was 23, and I then served as a primary caregiver for my mom for the next 12 years. I got to do it a generation ahead of when most get the chance, and it totally changed me in so many ways. She was my best friend. We did everything together. I loved the opportunity it was to care for her, but there were some really hard parts that I never could have anticipated. So while I would never trade the experience, I also don't think I'd invite it back again. It's rewarding, but it's tough. As I said, that experience changed everything about me, including where I'd spend the next decades of my personal career. I worked at the Mayo Clinic, United Healthcare, and then started my own businesses in managing elder care. I owned and operated 2 elder care facilities and met hundreds of amazing seniors and their families. I worked in home care and assisted living and memory care and consulted with many other businesses and individuals and families. I've always believed that, for the most part, there was a better way to age than the people that I met were aging, that we could make the world a better world in the way that we care for our senior loved ones. Specifically, I've talked for years about stitching together the caregiving landscape to improve the experience of those both receiving and giving care. Over time, I realized that the hurricane of different issues and problems and opportunities that were coming at me could be bucketed into a few discrete categories. And if I could manage and understand those categories well, I could handle almost anything. With other smart, dedicated caregivers, family members, and professionals, we've assembled these categories into a holistic, complete landscape of caregiving. 8 discrete categories that, when understood and managed well, can really improve the outcome of nearly any care situation. But that's not what this course is about. We have a lot to teach in each of those areas, but what today is all about is what's in the center. And I have to say, what's in the center of a model like this really matters. Many really good practitioners and providers of care put the recipient of care in the center of their vision and their model and their focus. And yes, we should keep our loved ones at the center of the decisions that are made for their care. But our model and the topic of this course is about putting the caregiver in the center.